Hi guys, welcome back to Debbie's Collectible Dolls. Let me get myself comfy. I want to be able to see the screen this time because I need to keep an eye on time. I'm having a lot of issues uploading videos at the moment because I've been doing slightly longer videos and my iPad doesn't like it, so I want to keep my eye on things. I have got Elisha here. This is Elisha Joseph. He is the Kira, I think that's the name, Kira Sculpt. That's who he is, but he's Elisha to me. And he is doing Theme Thursday for last week because it's Sunday today. And given the trouble I had uploading the video last week, it might be Monday already by the time you see it. I don't know, but I'm recording on Sunday. And he's doing last week's Theme Thursday, which was camping. And he is here in stars, as you can see, because when you go camping, you are under the stars. There is usually just the canopy of your tent above your head, and then the stars. And if you're anything like me, sometimes there's not even a tent canopy, it is literally just the stars, because I've had some experiences camping. Now Yvonne from Having You On, who does the Theme Thursday, asked us if we could tell a story relating to a camping experience. Yes I can, and that's why I need to keep an eye on the clock here, because I'm going to have to shorten this story down because I might go on a bit long. I tend to do that with stories. I am from a long line of camping people on both my mum's side and my dad's side, including both tents and caravans. And when they got married, they kept up the camping tradition. And even when I was as tiny as him, well, maybe not quite as tiny as him, but when I was a baby, they still had camping holidays in tents, and I would sleep in a carry cot on the tent floor. So yeah, camping is in my blood. My family holidays with my mum and dad, I have probably put rose tinted glasses on as to how great they were, because I had great memories of being in tents and caravans. And then came my adult life when I decided to recreate some of those things and go camping. Camping can go wrong. Camping can go very, very wrong. I had some good experiences. Well, good might be too strong of a word. I had some experiences in tents that were good. Well, again, too strong a word. They were fine. They were okay. It was reasonable. And then there was a couple of not so great experiences with tents. So I'm going to tell you the last one, the last experience with a tent, and you might understand why it's the last experience I had with a tent. It was in Scotland. Thankfully, I don't live too far away from Scotland. We're quite close to the border here, but it was far enough. I was going up to the Isle of Mull. That's on the Inner Hebrides up there off the west coast of Scotland, with two friends of mine, Charlotte and Amy. And Charlotte was organising the whole thing. She's like, "Leave it to me, it's fine." And she's very, very organised. Is a lovely Charlotte. So I thought everything was going to be fine. And then she turned up at my house on the morning. She lives about 10 miles away, 10, 11. So she came to pick both me and Amy up. We live in the same town, Amy and I. And arrived at the house with a funny look on her face. And I'm like, yeah, Charlotte, what's this about then, this look? And she said, well, when I booked the car, she had to book a car because she'd sold hers shortly before this. She said, there's a list of kind of what you'd like to reserve. And she said, well, I just put the mini type car, because she said I didn't think we needed a big car. And I'm like, yeah. And she said, well, I thought it kind of just meant mini-ish in size. I knew where this was going. And I said, it didn't, did it? And she said, no. And I said, have we literally got a mini? And she said, no, it's worse, it's smaller. And we had a Kia, one of those little Kia cars. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they are smaller than a Mini Cooper. Tiny little things. For three of us, plus two tents, because I have learned have my own tent. So Amy and Charlotte were going to share a tent, and I had one of my own. Plus 3 sleeping bags, plus big boxes of food. We were going for 3-4 days. 3 days, I think. We had to take our own food. We had our sleeping bags. We had our, overnight stuff. And this car that was tiny. It was small. It was like the box you would get a reborn in for 3 of us. So I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun. So she had to reorganise the car to fit my stuff in. And then we went round to pick up poor Amy and had to explain to Amy the same story. And then we had to pack all Amy's stuff in, which again involved rearranging the car to fit everything in. And then we had to pack Amy into the back of the car. So there's Charlotte driving, me in the passenger seat with no footwell. I had to keep my legs curled up on bags in the footwell. Amy in the back with stuff packed up on the seat beside her, stuff in the footwell, stuff on her knees and stuff behind her head. We had to keep this little tiny bit on the parcel shelf behind us so Charlotte could see out the back window a little bit. And off we headed to Scotland. By the time we got up to Oban, which is on the Scottish coast where you get the ferry to go out to the Isle of Mull, it was late because we'd had to spend time packing ourselves into the car, and every time we took a pit stop to go to the bathroom or something, we had to unpack ourselves and then pack ourselves back into the car. We were late getting there, so the ferry that we were booked on had already gone, so we had to wait for another one. And by the time the other one arrived, it was starting to get a little bit dark, and we were probably about maybe 40 minutes on the ferry, half an hour to 40 minutes on the ferry getting out to Mull. Not sure, it's a while ago now, it's a few years. So we get out to Mull and it's starting to get dark. I mean, it's twilighty, and Charlotte says we have to get across Mull to the campsite we're booked in. And I'm like, can't we just stay on this side of the island, because there's a campsite right here, right where we are, where the ferry's dropped us off. And she's like, no, we're booked in, we're gonna have to, we can make it. And I'm like, oh, looked at Amy, this is a bad idea, we should stay here. But no, she was resigned. So we hopped into the car, and as we started to travel across the island, it got black, dark, really dark, and the rain started very, very heavy, and the wind started up. And the Isle of Mull, when you're travelling across it, is a 1-lane road. So I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with what I'm talking about here, but you have to give way to traffic that comes towards you, or they give way to you. So you can pull slightly to one side in these little slips at the side of the road. And you have to let each other pass, because you can't just overtake each other. And so it's generally advised to stay at a very slow speed, because you're going to go head to head with another car, and one of you has to stop, pull to the side, like the other one passed. Charlotte had her foot down because she wanted to get to the caravan site, the campsite. We had tents, obviously. And I'm terrified at this point, and I'm like, Charlotte, do you think maybe we should slow down, because we could hit another car coming head on towards us at this point? She's like, no, it's fine, nobody's going to be traveling across the island at this time of night. It was 11:30. And I'm like, yeah, we are. So she didn't slow down. I was very fearful for our lives at this point. And then I also remembered that the last time I'd been on Mull, there were a lot of deer and stag that would just stroll across the road. So that added to the tension, as well as the weather conditions. Anyway, we survived and got to the campsite, where, again, rain, heavy rain, wind, closing into 12 o'clock now. And the campsite was on the very edge of the island. It was a farmer's field. Well, he'd hired out this one field, and it was right on the edge of the beach. Beautiful it was, but not at that moment. And we struggled to put my tent up, and I'm like, this isn't going to work. It's not going to work. She's like, well, put yours up first. So I got my tent up-ish, and it was lurching to one side. And she said, no, it's fine. Get in. We're just going to go off to the toilet block. You get yourself settled in. So I crawled into this tent with my little mat to put down inside to sleep on. And they drove off to the toilet block, and I sat there and I'm looking around inside my tent with my torch, and I'm thinking, this does not feel safe. We were very exposed to the wind, as you can imagine, right on the edge of the beach. And within a minute, it fell, with me trapped inside, zipped inside, and I had to fumble about, unzip 2 zips, because it was one of those little igloo tents, so there was like 2 doors to get through, and crawl out of it. And I crawled out into this dark field just as Charlotte and Amy were returning from the toilet block, and Charlotte says she'd never forget because her headlights hit me and she said I looked like some very angry banshee woman looming towards the car, furious, because I was really, really, really angry at this point that I've been forced to do this. And there was the tent, and I do have a photograph of the tent as it was after it fell down, and hopefully I can put it on here. But there's rocks in the background. If you see those rocks behind the fallen tent, just at the other side of the rocks is sand and the sea. It was right on the edge there. And so then she said, well, we'll put my tent up then. That was hit with a rather cold response, and we ended up spending the night packed in that very uncomfortable car. And she did make it up for us the next day by booking us into a little holiday cottage. But there's a lot more to the story, but that's the basics of my last camping trip. And I do actually like camping, but that's really put me off. It really has. So there's my story. It's going to take me 3 hours to upload this video because it's gone 11 minutes. So I'm going to stop talking now and say happy weekend. And I hope I see you all soon. And yeah, watch out for the photograph. Bye, guys.